everyone. So I just came on here to film the final clip for this video, and then I realized that I never filmed an introduction clip. So hi, here's the introduction clip. Today's video is going to be the reading vlog that I'm doing for the weekend readathon that I hosted at this point when I'm filming with Bizarre Individual. This took place from January 17th through the 19th. We had a lot of fun, and I did end up vlogging the entire thing. I tried to do some creative things with this video. I don't know if it worked, but if you're watching this, then I felt like it was good enough to post. So yeah, anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Okay, so it's the night before the readathon starts, and I have to work tomorrow, so I'm not going to start reading at midnight, even though I want to. That's irresponsible, so I'm not going to do that. But I thought I would share some of the things I'm planning on reading throughout this readathon, this 24-hour challenge that I'm doing. So we have 4 challenges for the readathon. They're optional, but I thought they would add a little bit of a fun twist to help you pick your TBR. So the first one was a manga with a blue cover. So with this one, I have Confession, if I can get it out of here. This is the one I'm planning on reading for this challenge. It also counts as the second challenge, which is a wintry read. So I could either double up on this or use another manga for the blue cover. As you can see, I have one here. I also want to read The Ice Wanderer, which would obviously count for either of those challenges, but I couldn't fit it on my cart here. So here it is. I do plan on reading this as well. And then the other 2 challenges are to read something you meant to finish in 2024. For that, I've picked The Tree of Death, Yamoto Higui. I have volume 3 here, but I still need to read volume 2, so I'm just going to go ahead and reread volume 1 and then read through the entire series since this is the final volume. Volume 3, very short series. I've heard mixed things about the ending of this, but I'd like to form my opinion for myself, obviously, so that's what I'm going to be reading for that challenge. And then the last challenge is super easy. It's just continuous series, so I could do that with a couple of these. This is volume 2 of The Strange House. Otherwise, this one is My Girlfriend's Child, volume 6. I have Touring After the Apocalypse, volume 5. So, and then the Spellbook Library, volume 2. So all those would count for that challenge. So those are the 4 challenges. I will definitely be accomplishing those. I have a couple different ways to do it. But as you can see, in addition to all these manga, I also have some novellas that I'd like to read. This is not a novella. This is a comic book called The Nice House on the Lake. I was recommended this by Pippa over at Strawberry Shoujo, and just from the cover, I will show you, looks like something I would like. So definitely going to be reading that during this readathon. Then I have a bunch of other random stuff. The ones I definitely want to get to are An Excellent Host. I'm not sure I can show you this cover, but this is by the author of A Certain Hunger, which is about a woman who is a serial killer, is in jail, and she definitely eats the people that she kills. So this doesn't have anything to do with that story specifically, but I think it does have similar themes, and it's also very, very short. So that one I'd like to read for sure. And I also have The Grown Up. So this is like a really, really short novella. I think it's a haunted house story. I don't know. I picked this up during the Barnes & Noble hardcover sale because it is a hardcover and it's really tiny, so it was really cheap. So I picked that up. Then I have a couple of other things I might read. I just wanted to give myself a lot of things to choose from. In case I get sick of reading manga, I can switch to a novella or whatever. Also, if you want to know what's in the back there, this is Versus Volume 2. It wouldn't fit on the cart in front, so I had to put it back there. But look at this cover. It's really cool. I picked this up just the other day at Barnes & Noble. So yeah, this is what I'm planning on reading. Unlike my usual TBRs, this is not set in stone. I could pick up something else instead, but I did want to give myself a lot of options to choose from, which is what I did. So yeah, I will be back with an update tomorrow when I finally start the readathon. Alright, so it is now 3:30. I got done with work a little bit early so I can finally start reading for the readathon. So I have my timer here. I'm going to start in a minute, but I thought I would talk about the things I'm planning on starting with. So first of all, I really want to continue with The Strange House. So this is volume 2, came out a couple months ago or last month or something. And I can't believe I haven't read it yet because I loved volume 1 so much. So this is priority number 1 for me right now. Then I also have Touring After the Apocalypse, Volume 5. I'm not really sure why I picked this one, just one I'd like to read, so I will get to that. And then tonight we also have reading sprints with the manga Sprint Squad. and our theme is related to the readathon, so we're going to be reading something with the blue cover. So I definitely want to read Confession, and then if I finish that, I will go on to The Ice Wanderer and other stories. So this is what I'm starting with. I'll let you know when I have something to talk about. Oh, and if you didn't watch my announcement video for this readathon, you might not know what this is for. Basically, I decided that this readathon is too easy for me, so I'm going to try to be actively reading for 24 hours. So I will only start the timer when I am reading. It's technically doable since this readathon is for 3 days, but like I said, it is already about 3:45. So we will be reading in reading sprints, and I will have some time to read tonight, but I will have to somehow find 24 hours in between the next 3 days to read. So that is my goal. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but we know me and challenges. I'll probably end up doing it even if I have to stay up and not sleep forever. So, oh, also, while I was at work, I did listen to a bit of the audiobook of Will of Ascension. I am rereading this after 10 years, so I can read the rest of the Cosmere books. So books in this world or in this universe. And so I'm currently this far, a little bit farther since I read some today, but I did not start the timer because, I don't know, I wanted to start it on camera and I didn't feel like recording then. So yeah, I will be probably listening to some of the audiobook of this throughout the next 24 hours of reading because I might need a break from actively reading with my eyeballs. And yeah, so I'm not sure how many of my thoughts on this I will actually share since I've read this before, and this is a manga YouTube channel primarily, but I am reading this, so yeah. All right, 1 hour in, only 23 more to go. At this point, I have read The Strange House Volume 2 and Touring After the Apocalypse Volume 5. For The Strange House Volume 2, once again, I can't say anything specific about this manga. This is one, I feel like if you like suspense, if you like horror manga, if you like mysteries, anything like that, just pick this up or read it from your library or something. Find some way to read it without knowing anything about it, because it's just so suspenseful and everything that's unraveling is so intriguing. I love it so much. There are people in here I do not trust. I do not trust them. I am suspicious of them. It's also quite creepy, and I'm pretty impressed by how creeped out I get reading this, just because the subject matter is not that creepy, at least in terms of what I usually consider creepy. This one does not hit that, if that makes sense. Like, I have subjects that usually creep me out, and this is not one of them, but it is creeping me out, and that's pretty impressive. So I'm really, really enjoying this manga. Can't wait to read more whenever Volume 3 comes out. I will say I do think Volume 1 was a little bit stronger than Volume 2, but really just very minor thing. I would give probably Volume 1 almost a 5 stars, and this one was a 4-star, but definitely still enjoying the series. Can't wait for the next volume. And then I read Touring After the Apocalypse Volume 5, so I forgot or didn't realize that it's been over a year since I read the previous volume. So when I opened this up, the situation that was happening, I did not remember. So I had to go and read some reviews and remember, oh yeah, that's what was happening. So I guess the last volume ended on a cliffhanger or something. Anyway, this manga, it seems to be just a regular slice of life manga, just in a apocalyptic setting, kind of like Girls Last Tour, but more lighthearted. However, this is more than just a slice of life manga. There's mystery in here, there's action. This volume in particular was very emotional, which I was not expecting. So yeah, I know some people are not super impressed by this, and I can totally see why. And maybe if you prefer just regular slice of life, you won't like the direction this is going in, but I do not prefer regular slice of life. So I was enjoying this beforehand just because the setting and the fact that there's a robot in it. So I was going to enjoy it either way. But the fact that it is not quite slice of life, I mean it is. It does have elements of these characters going out, discovering these different areas of Japan. So it is slice of life-y, but there are other elements that are keeping me intrigued, which is what I need to read a slice of life manga. So I'm definitely still enjoying this. I don't know when Volume 6 is going to come out, but it's probably going to be a while. So either way, still enjoying this manga. Next, we have reading sprints in a little over an hour. So I need to eat some food, make dinner. So while I am doing that, I will be listening to the audiobook of The Will of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. So I am going to be turning the timer on while I'm doing that because listening to an audiobook counts as reading. So yeah, I don't really know how much of this I'm going to get through. The point is just if I'm doing something and I can't be reading with my eyeballs, I might as well be reading with my ears. This is a reread. I think I said that already, but yeah. Anyway, I will be back probably after the reading sprints tonight. So yeah. Last night my cats woke me up many times, so I did not get as much sleep as I wanted to, but last night we did the reading sprints, and the theme for that was to read something with a blue cover, so I ended up reading Confession. This is a one-shot put out by Kodansha, and this is about two people who are kind of lost on this mountain during a blizzard, and one of them is injured and he thinks he's going to bleed out and die. So basically he performs a kind of deathbed confession, or what he assumes is going to be a deathbed confession, and then he doesn't die. And these two guys find this cabin thing, and there's kind of tension in between them because now this guy has admitted this secret that he thought he was taking to his literal grave, but now they're stuck in this cabin together, and there's obviously tension there because the guy doesn't want his secret to come out. So I unfortunately did not care for this very much. At the beginning, it seemed to be trying to do something psychological, which I really would have enjoyed if that kept through the entire way. I really love psychological thriller stories that explore just someone's mind when they're in a really high stakes situation like this. And so the first part was okay with that, but definitely takes a different turn eventually, so I didn't care for that. Also, I'm going to nitpick a little bit, but this guy who's injured has frostbite, seemingly, and that is just not the way you treat frostbite. That's going to give you a worse situation than you started with if you treat frostbite the way that he tried to treat his frostbite. Also, he says that he can't feel his leg, but he has no problem walking around. I mean, he uses like a ski pole as a cane, but he continues to walk around this cabin even though he says he can't feel his leg. So yes, I am pointing out things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but it kind of just shows a lack of attention to detail, if that makes sense. Also, in the past year or so, I've read some really great manga that have amazing, creepy atmosphere and keeps up the suspense, and this did not have any of that. It should. Like, this cover, I feel like, has atmosphere, but this is the only part of this manga that has this atmosphere. They're in this, like, bitter cold environment, but I didn't feel that, even though I'm also in a bitter cold environment. That's why I wanted to read it in the winter, but it just didn't fulfill what I wanted in that part. And then the ending was both predictable and also didn't make sense with some of the things that happened at the beginning of the story. So all in all, not my favorite thing. It's okay. Like, it wasn't horrible to read. I thought I didn't really like have any thoughts about it, but the more I thought about it, the more I had complaints about it. So yeah, it's fine, but I'm never going to think about this ever again. And also during the sprints, I started The Ice Wanderer and Other Stories by Jiro Taniguchi. This is, as it would suggest, a group of short stories. I read just the first story in here about, again, two hikers. This time they are hunting. I think they're from like California and they're going into Canada to hunt something. Oh, to look for gold. I forgot. They were looking for gold. And one of the characters is actually supposed to be Jack London, the author, which is interesting. Anyway, they meet this person, this man who is indigenous to the area, and he kind of explains this story about a white moose that's on the cover here. And yeah, it's an okay story. Not anything amazing. It's not supposed to be like jaw-dropping. It's just a quiet story, which I think all of these will be. But I did not want to try to read all of these stories at once. I feel like I should break it up, and also I should probably wait until on Sunday it's going to be like -1 degrees. That's the high. So I feel like I should read something like this when it's that cold outside. I don't know why. I feel like I need to do that, but yeah, I will read more of this throughout the weekend, but I did read one story here. And then after the sprints, I wanted to read something else, but I didn't know what I wanted to read since I know I didn't want to continue that right away. So I asked Bazaar to pick something off of my TBR cart for me to read, and he picked I.L. by Osamu Tezuka. I did not finish this last night because it is very wordy, and it is a bigger volume than it might look. So I finished it this morning. I didn't show you the timer, did I? The timer is currently at 4 hours and 30 minutes, about. So anyway, I finished this morning, and I really enjoyed this. I didn't really have any expectations for this. I've read Osamu Tezuka works, but a lot of them are very different from each other, so I didn't really know what genres were going to be explored here. And I definitely enjoyed the stories. It's another group of short stories, but these ones all follow this one character, and they're all kind of interconnected a little bit, just with her character. She is a shape-shifting vampire, which I did not know. I did not know that going in. I was very pleasantly surprised by that with my current vampire obsession, I guess you could call it. So I like that, but basically she is hired by various people to take the form of someone for various reasons throughout the 15 stories I want to say are in this volume. And yeah, so there's lots of different people explored here. A lot of trigger warnings though, like it's a lot of terrible people doing terrible things to each other, really toxic relationships in all manners, and surprisingly political. I was not expecting the amount of political commentary that was in here. I don't mind. I actually prefer when a manga tries to explore something like that. Also, there were some elements of horror in here, which I was not expecting. I really appreciate Osamu Tezuka's artwork because it can kind of seem cartoony at first glance, but then there are some times where he draws these really beautiful landscape pictures, or on the other hand, sometimes he will take one panel and draw it with a lot more detail than the other one, so it really stands out, and he did that in here with some of the more horror-like panels, so I loved that, of course. You also have the main character trying to figure out some things about herself. She wants to feel love. She gets involved in a lot of situations with people who are in love with each other, but being very toxic to each other, so she feels like she wants to feel love, so we kind of see her journey with that a little bit as well. And so yeah, I think this group of short stories was really interesting. I really appreciated most of them. At the beginning I was a little bit worried because I think the first 5 or so were less interesting to me, but the middle ones were definitely very good in my opinion. So yeah, I didn't really have any expectations for this, and I was very pleasantly surprised by it. So I'm going to be moving on from blue volumes. I didn't actually mean to read all my blue volumes at the same time, but I ended up doing that. So now I want to move on to a novella, I think. So I have The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. On the back it says, "You like ghost stories?" So I assume this is going to be a ghost story. It also says fiction, thriller, and suspense on the back. So yeah, it's also only like 63 pages. So should be very easy, quick read. So I will take a little bit of a break from manga to read this. And then after that, I will probably read Yomotsu Higui. These are not in the correct order. I've read volume 1 before. I really enjoyed it. I've heard mixed things about the next 2 volumes, but I do want to go ahead and reread this and then just go ahead and finish the series. So I will be back once I have another update for you. So at this point, we have finished our reading sprints today. So I'm not sure if we're going to do any tomorrow. That's up for debate. We'll see. But before the reading sprints, I reread Volume 1 of Yomotsu Higui, and then during the reading sprints, I read Volumes 2 and 3 for the first time. So I knew going into this that this was going to have pacing issues. I heard especially in Volume 3, but just throughout the entire series, since it seems to have been canceled or something happened. I just know that in Volume 1, there was so much being set up for this kind of longer journey of these characters going out, finding these immortal people, and helping them out, and basically taking away their immortality, because immortality is kind of a curse if you think about it. But that's what it was setting up in this volume, and I really love this Volume 1. It's very, very dark, so definitely go into it knowing that, and many trigger warnings for this as well. But it's very dark, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved everything it was setting up. And so I was just expecting to be disappointed, and honestly, I was. I know I've heard the pacing issues for Volume 3, but I noticed a lot of pacing issues in Volume 2. It seems to me like that idea that I just said, where they're going around helping people who are immortal, it seems like they started to do that in this volume. The first little section in here is something like that, but then they go back to the main overarching plot point very quickly, and from there and into this volume, it's just very, very rushed. Somehow I didn't realize that like 2 years had passed from the beginning of Volume 1 to the ending of this volume, and I didn't know that because it felt like there was content missing in between each volume. Like there was a bunch of stories that should have been there that we didn't see. And so they're trying to have these emotional moments in here, but they just don't hit because we haven't had enough time to get to know these characters and have them grow on us. So that's really unfortunate. It's really disappointing how the series ended up going. I do really enjoy the themes of family in here, the different family dynamics that are explored. And of course, the art is amazing. The body horror and these tentacle monster things that the people turn into. The art is amazing, and I'm just so sad about what happened to this manga. Again, I don't know if it was canceled or the author decided to end it early. I don't know. It just fell flat by a lot, and I'm really disappointed because I feel like this could have been a really fantastic manga if it was given time to breathe, time to explore our characters more in depth before this final climax, where we're supposed to really care about the reveals and what's happening to them, but I just don't care because we haven't had enough time. I wish the series had been like 10 volumes long, 8 volumes long, something like that, where we could have been given time. So yeah, this will probably go in the unhaul pile. Again, Volume 1 was so good, but I'm not going to keep it just because Volume 1 was good. So then during the reading sprints, I also read Versus Volume 2. I have to be careful what I say about this because Volume 1 was very, very surprising, and I can't say anything about Volume 1 other than the fact that this manga is about a group of characters who are basically being harassed, being killed by demons. So they come up with heroes who are supposed to go and try to defeat the demons, but every single time they end up dying. So there are these mages who think they have an idea to try to solve this problem, and they enact that idea, and something happens that I'm not going to say. Anyway, this volume was pretty good as well. Obviously, it doesn't have the surprise factor that Volume 1 had, so it doesn't have that going for it, but I still really enjoyed it. I think if you don't like shonen action stuff, you're not going to like this, but just like most of the works by this author, it does kind of play with that a little bit. Obviously, One Punch Man is a satire on shonen manga, and this one, while it doesn't feel like a satire, it does kind of play around with a little bit of elements from shonen manga, but I do think you do need to enjoy a typical shonen action manga to enjoy this. In my opinion, at least, that's what I think. But I do enjoy those things, so I am enjoying this one. I'm not sure how I'm going to continue to talk about this as more volumes come out. I don't know if eventually I will just have to say what happens in Volume 1 in order to talk about the next few volumes, but yeah, I do love this cover though. Look at it. It's so cool. I love really obnoxiously colorful covers like this. And then just very briefly, I will talk about some novellas I have been reading. So first up is The Grown Up. I don't really know what to say about this. It says, "Do you like ghost stories?" on the back. So this is about a woman who is kind of in a job where she pretends to tell people's fortunes. She's basically scamming people, and one day this woman says that she has a stepson who is very troubled, and she convinces her to come to her house, and strange things happen. And honestly, I was pretty disappointed by this. I didn't feel any kind of creepy atmosphere from it at all. It didn't do anything to want me to keep reading. Just the fact that it was short was why I kept reading, and the ending was disappointing. I did think it was kind of funny. I did like the voice of the main character, but the rest of it was disappointing. So I ended up giving this a 2 out of 5 stars. And then this one I'm going to hold like this. I'm sure it's probably fine to show this on YouTube, but I'm just going to play it safe. So this is called An Excellent Host. This is by Chelsea G. Summers. This is about a group of women who are inviting a man to dinner. That's all I'm going to say about that. Maybe you can tell what's going to happen from the cover. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's very short. I think it's even shorter than the Grown Up because this is about the same number of pages. But this has like an entire author's note at the end that takes up like 15 pages. So yeah, really enjoyed this. And I don't know why I've been reading so many things like this recently. Also, I didn't know when I got it that it's signed. That's cool. Also, the fact that it says cheers, that's kind of funny. So yeah, I read this. And finally, I got sick of reading with my eyeballs after the reading sprints. So I decided to continue my audiobook of The Will of Ascension. I have about 2 parts left. These are like the shortest parts in the book though. So I have about 3 hours left of the audiobook. So honestly, I will probably just finish listening to this right now, and then we will see what I do after that. This is where my timer is looking, and at this point I'm starting to become concerned that I'm not going to be able to finish the 24 hours. Like I said, I will add 3 hours to this time to get about 13 and a half hours, and then that means tomorrow I have to read for about 10 and a half hours. And I don't know if I can do that, but we'll see. I will try. First up, I'm going to go finish this book. I originally gave it 5 stars when I first read it 10 years ago. I'm not sure it's going to uphold that 5-star rating, but we will see. I do really enjoy this series, and according to my schedule, once I finish this, I will be caught up with what I need to read for this month. So maybe I'll get a kickstart on the next book, so that will give me a leg up for next month. I don't know. I don't need to be overthinking my reading, but I do it all the time anyway. So yeah, that's my update for now. I will be back probably tomorrow. I don't think I'll have any more updates today. So yeah. Alright, so it's now Sunday. It's actually already afternoon on Sunday. I woke up with a headache this morning, so I didn't really want to be on camera, so that's why we're doing this angle, but I have been reading. Currently, this is what my timer is at. I know I said I was going to finish my audiobook last night, and then I got distracted by football, so I still had about an hour left of my audiobook. But right now, this is what the timer is at. And this morning, I started with The Ice Wanderer, because it is cold as hell outside, so I figured I might as well read something that looks cold. And the majority of the stories in here, I feel like, were in a cold setting. There was one that took place in the summer, kind of ruined the mood. But anyway, this is a collection of short stories by Jiro Taniguchi. I talked about the first one a little bit already, but I read the rest of the stories in here. And for the most part, I liked them more than the first one. They mostly tackle like nature, and there's one about two guys who are in a similar situation to the first two guys. They're also hunting for gold, and unfortunately they get attacked by wolves. So that part was interesting. And then there was a story after that about a guy who wants revenge on this bear that killed his son. So that one was good as well. And then the last story, I think it was about an old whale dying, and it was kind of interesting. So all of those stories I really liked. There were some other ones, like one about a mangaka. It was okay. And then another one about a boy remembering something that happened to him during one of the summers of his childhood. That one was okay as well. But the ones that were about nature, like the cover would suggest, I really enjoyed those ones. So yeah, overall I would recommend this, especially if you like Jiro Taniguchi's other works. And I think I prefer his short stories so far, at least. I'm also really glad I liked this because the cover is so cool. Then after that, I read My Girlfriend's Child Volume 6. So I continue to really enjoy this series. Nothing else really to say about this volume except for it's not quite as dramatic as the last few volumes have been. They've been very angsty, and now our main character is finally making some decisions for herself, and that is helping her out. And of course, she has her supportive family for the most part. There are still a few questions regarding that, but I think that is my favorite part of this manga so far, is the tension with the families and how they're dealing with the situation as well. So after I read this volume, I did go ahead and look it up, and it looked like this manga finished in Japan just this past July, so we know it will be concluded at 10 volumes, so just 4 more of these to go, but I continue to really enjoy this manga. And as I suggested, after that, I didn't really want to read with my eyeballs anymore. I just wanted to go ahead and sit on the couch and listen to my audiobook, so I finished The Well of Ascension. I read through the final part, which was part 6, and again, this was a reread. I've already said that like 17 times in this video, but I did say that originally I was thinking, I wasn't sure why I gave this a 5-star when I first read it, but the final third of this book definitely reminded me why I gave this 5 stars in the first place. It's probably more like a 4.5, but that's just if I'm being really picky. So I honestly don't really know what I want to do now. Obviously, I still have a lot of time I need to be reading, so I think the only thing I really know I want to read is The Nice House on the Lake. This was a recommendation from Pippa, and this is a comic, an American comic. I have not read any American comics in probably years, but come on, look at this cover. And this is the complete story, I believe. Let's see what this looks like. I'm kind of afraid to look at that. Ooh, that's cool. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, she didn't tell me anything about it, just told me to read it, and with this cover, I will believe her. So yeah, I do want to read this, but other than that, I don't really know what else I want to read. So instead of reading, let's put that off some more, and I will show you some books I got in the mail this week. Every week, I usually go on Instagram and I post the books that I've received from my pre-orders throughout the week, and I decided to do it in this vlog because what else am I going to do? So I got this very pink cover of Tokyo Revengers, volumes 27 and 28. This is pretty close to the ending, just one more volume, and then it will be complete. So yeah, looking forward to this. I haven't read a single page of the series, so I haven't done that in a while where I pick up an entire series without reading any of it, but I did that with this series, and this series is in the TBR jar, so I could pull it pretty soon and have to read it, but I do plan on finishing this year, hopefully. Then I also got Witch Hat Atelier Volume 13. This cover is so cool. It's even cooler in person than it was in pictures, so yeah, nothing else to say about that. I think I've read the content in this volume. At one point, I was trying to keep up with the releases on the K-Manga app, and then I couldn't do it because it's like half a chapter every 2 weeks or something like that, so I am pretty sure I've read all the chapters in this volume, though. And then finally, one of my most anticipated releases for the year is Silence. This is published by Kana, who has been doing some really good things lately. This one, I believe, is a post-apocalyptic manga with monsters. Sounds kind of like A Quiet Place, where the characters have to stay quiet or they get killed by monsters. So that's cool. I haven't looked at Underneath the Dust Jacket, so let's do that together, shall we? Oh, that's funny. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't really care for dust jackets in general, but since they're not raising the price of these and still including the dust jackets, then I'm fine with that. So yeah, looks cool. Can't wait to read this. This will be included in my next try a volume video, which should be the video after this one, hopefully. So yeah. Okay, so we're back out here. And since I don't know what I want to read, and I kind of still don't want to be staring at a page, I thought I would just go ahead and continue in the Mistborn series and reread The Hero of Ages. According to my schedule, I don't have to start that until next month, but I might as well just get ahead because there's some big books ahead of me with that project. So I'm showing you this bookshelf to show you this thing that Pippa sent me, and this is a Lego flower thing, and I really liked it, and I enjoyed making it, and I thought it looked good to decorate my bookshelf, so I bought another one that I put down here. So I'm showing you those because I bought another one to do, so I might just do this while I'm listening to my audiobook. That's a really easy way to continue reading and have the timer on without actually reading with my eyeballs. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. Okay, it's the next day. I ended up reading until about 10 o'clock last night, so I definitely didn't feel like filming after that, but I did hit my goal of reading 24 hours. I even went an extra 16 minutes just because I wanted to finish the chapter of the book I was reading. So after that last update, I actually only read 2 more things, most of which was The Nice House on the Lake. This is an American comic book, as I mentioned, and this is the complete story. For the most part, it definitely feels like a part 1, but I think this is satisfying enough where you could stop reading here. You will be left with some questions, but it does feel like a complete story. So I'm going to be vague when I describe this. This is a post-apocalyptic story. It follows this group of characters, and they are invited to this really nice house on a lake in Wisconsin. They were invited there by their mutual friend here. His name is Walter. But unfortunately, nothing good can happen when you're in Wisconsin, and while they're on this lake, they realize that the apocalypse is happening, and they are basically stuck here. They can't leave, and that's about all I'm going to say. So this is the first American comic that I have read in years. I can't even remember the last one I read, maybe Heathen, and I've read a little bit of Saga, but for the most part, American comics are not my thing. But this one I definitely really enjoyed. Obviously, the genre is something I enjoy, so I was probably going to like this with the horror and the post-apocalypse and the sci-fi stuff going on. But I was really surprised by how much the art affected me. The way that characters' expressions are drawn is really captivating, and I love the images we get like this, where it looks like someone is taking a picture of these characters, and there's quite a few pages like that throughout here. Let me see if I can find one. Here's a good one. So you have just characters standing there, and it looks like the flash is on the camera in the dark, and you get a picture like this. For a while, it was difficult to keep track of the characters because they are all introduced at the same time. They get a little like info box about each of them, but I'm not going to sit there and memorize each info box. I'm just going to keep reading. But eventually I was able to keep track of the characters pretty easily. And this is not really a linear story. There's different times that are shown. Some of these characters know each other from high school, some know each other from college, and we see all of their interactions with our main creepy dude right here. So as I mentioned, there is a sequel series to this, and I might read that, but not until it's finished. I don't think I would be someone who can keep track of comics as they're releasing. I just have too much stuff going on to be able to do that. But I am vaguely interested in the sequel. I did like the way this ended. In fact, I think this would make a really great movie. I have watched a couple movies that are like this, but I feel like this one would make a really, really interesting one that I'd love to watch. But I am worried about the direction this might take in the future. I am pretty satisfied with this as a story in itself, but we'll see. I might have to do some research. If they release that in the same version, then maybe I will go ahead and give it a try. But I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this, so thanks to Pippa for recommending it to me. I'm going to try not to let myself look too much into American comics, because obviously I still have my hands full with all the manga that I'm reading, but I did really enjoy this, and I'm happy to have read it during this readathon. And then after that, I just decided to read The Hero of Ages, which I technically did not have to start until February, according to the schedule that I made up for myself if I want to read all these books throughout the year, but I just wanted to listen to an audiobook, so I read about 150 pages of this. This one is also a reread. But overall, I would say this readathon was pretty successful. I read quite a lot of things, including finishing 1 novel, 2 novellas, 1 comic book, and 10 volumes of manga. So I do think me and Bazaar are going to be doing this again in the future. If we do, unless I can get a full 3 days off, I will probably not be trying to read for 24 hours again. I will say the only reason I was able to read for 24 hours this time is because of audiobooks. I think about 8 of those hours was me just sitting there, either reading along with my audiobook or just staring at the wall, listening to my audiobook. And while I don't mind that, I think it was a really good way to get through the books that I need to read. I am not sure it makes like the most interesting content, so I will probably not be doing that in the future, but we do plan on repeating this readathon in the future. Thank you so much to everyone who participated. I know I had a ton of fun, and I know Bazaar had a ton of fun, and I hope you had a ton of fun as well. And thanks to Bazaar for co-hosting this readathon with me. Thanks to everyone on Instagram who cheered me along in my quest to reach 24 hours. I really appreciate you all. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know. I know I haven't done a vlog style video like this probably ever or in a long time, and I know I talked about some things that were not manga. Hopefully you didn't hate that. If you did, you can go ahead and let me know in the comments. I don't mind. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!